teach young women how to grow, lead, overcome, and win. Today, I am going to be talking about something that is near and dear to my heart, and that is building your board of directors, choosing mentors for a high stakes career path. All right. I am Mia Hall. I am your host. I went from the hood to Harvard, and I teach young women how to do the same or how to fulfill whatever their biggest dreams are. And one of those ways to fulfill your biggest dreams is by building your professional board. Now, what does that really mean, right? So, I'm just going to get right into it. In my book, Glow Girl, which is available now at miahalltv.com, I speak about the culture consciousness in chapter 11. And that I had to learn on my own. But if I was really strategic about it, I would be able to get somebody on my board of directors to teach me about a culture before I go into it. And that way I'll know a little bit more about the rules for the culture before I go into a job or into a company, into a new space. Even if it's a contract job, you never know. So, building your board of directors. What is a board of directors? So, of course, at a company, companies will have boards of directors so that they can be advised on which way to go, on, what strategies to use, what are the best, plans of execution for those strategies. How can they best raise sales or, raise their ROI or return on investment, right? So companies, nonprofits, all across the board, they have a board with a chairperson, vice chair, and, just different people, a different board of advisors to be able to tell the company which direction to go. These are people with experience, mostly a lot of times they'll have experience in fundraising and learning how to keep the revenue of a company, afloat. But there can be many other reasons, just, keeping employee retention, different things, right? So we have to have this for our lives as well, or it's very helpful when you're thinking about going into a high stakes career, going into something that might be very hard to get into. Now, my mentor, Alfred Edmond Jr., he taught me that mentorship is not owed, but it's earned. So when we're looking at this board of advisors, I just want to make a disclaimer. We're not, just going up to people, meeting them for the first time and asking them, hey, can you be my mentor? No. Can you be my board of advisors, and you don't even know them, you don't even have a relationship with them? That's not how it works. Usually, or sometimes somebody might not even know that they're on your board of advisors, because usually in companies they'll meet quarterly, together in order to have a cohesive plan on where to go next. But your personal board of directors, they might not even know each other, but you know who they are because you have brought them in to strategically help you to fill in the gaps that you need to fill in, the skills that you don't have, the information that you don't have on certain areas in this high stakes career that you want to get. So for me, it is being a film producer, right? And so I now am building relationships in an area where I'm, I'm new to. Now, I say new, I started working with the Steve Harvey Talk Show. That was my first time really working for a long period of time, for a whole season on a show that was nationally syndicated, right? And so it was in 2018. So that was now 8 years ago. And so I've been in this industry, but I haven't always had TV jobs in the last 8 years. So I still consider myself new. So that being said, I am building my board of directors so that I can fill in the gaps where I don't know, where, I didn't have jobs in TV for a certain amount of time, so I might not know certain things, and I have not keeping jobs in the TV industry has, really has, in my opinion, in a way, not allowed me to progress in film and television as much as I believe that I would have if I stayed in that path strategically and exclusively. So, building a board of mentors is going to help me. And I want to teach you how to build a board of mentors so that, and a board of directors, so that you can do the same. So really, it's going to be, your mentors, really. And how you get mentors is really asking people for informational interviews and staying in touch with them, right? So it's reaching out to someone in your industry. I remember my mentor, Karen Buchholz, who I talk about in the book as well. I met her at an event, right? Because this is sometimes where you'll meet people when you're going to professional development events, when you're going to conferences, when you're going to networking events, networking mixers, right? You can meet these different types of people that will give you information about your industry. So met her, even though at that time I was working for Power Play NYC. So, it was while I was at work. And thankfully I worked at a place, where I wanted to grow in. So was able to meet her. And she said, which I'll never forget, and which is great advice to this day, even though we don't have phone books anymore, but she said, look in the phone book, look in the yellow pages, and find the top person in your industry. Ask them to take them to lunch. It was like, especially as a young person, you'll, be able to take them to lunch or coffee or just have 15 minutes of their time, right? This was pre-Zoom era. This was like, before all of that. But, she was like, ask to take them to lunch, ask them for 15 minutes of their time so you can take them on an informational interview. In this informational interview is where you'll be able to ask them questions. People love to talk about themselves. People love to also, give back. And the people that don't, she said, you know what, if they say no, go to the second top person in your industry. And then, start to talk to them. If they say no, hey, you just keep on going down the list. And that was 20 years ago that she told me this. And I still do it to this day. Nowadays, we don't have the yellow book, but we do have LinkedIn. And if you don't think I'm sliding the DMs or private messaging the people that I would like to hold positions like they do one day, then you would be wrong, because that is what I am doing. And so that would be my advice, to, start to take people on informational interviews if you have no mentors at all, right? And then you build a relationship, right? So especially if you're a younger person, this might take some time to build a relationship for somebody to take you on as a mentee, because they want to see you earn it. They want to see you fulfilling your goals, you going to school and choosing that major that, that aligns with what you say you want to do. They want to know that you are going to, the networking events and the conferences that are in your neighborhood. I'm not saying pay for anything, but you're volunteering. One thing you have as a young person, time, that you're spending your time reading books, reading articles, keeping them updated. Oh, telling your mentor that you had this informational interview with a month later or 2 months later, however long. Hey, I have a Google alert on the fashion industry, let's say fashion merchandising, and I saw that they were having an event at Fashion Week, and I asked the person who's the head of the event, can I volunteer? And they allowed me to volunteer. And then you tell your mentor this, you stay in touch with them. They're like, oh, okay, well, you should come to my event. And then it keeps on going, right? So that's how you build a relationship with a mentor, right? And then so in your head, excuse me, you think about what are the people in places in my industry that, can help direct me. And you know what? It doesn't always, I say for a high stakes career, but it doesn't always have to be for a career, right? You can have a mentor. I have spiritual mentors. Ooh, Candace Quinney. She is a beautiful spiritual mentor. She, had a monthly prayer call, and, is married and has children, and you know what I mean? Like, so she's a spiritual mentor of mine. And, I have different people that I speak to about different things. So it doesn't always have to be, in your career, but it would behoove you, be very wise to have these people in your career for sure. And so I have a variety, right, of people that I stay in touch with in the film and television industry. But like I said, I'm still newer, so it's taking some time. But I know even my mentor, like I said, Alfred Edmond, he is definitely on my board of directors, like personally in my head, right? Because he was somebody that I'll go to, for advice when I'm thinking about where I should take my person. You're not thinking about where you should take your company. You're thinking about where you should take your career, right? So when I was writing my book, asked him, he gave me an endorsement. You know what I mean? When I wanted to write, asked him, he helped me to, write in Black Enterprise. First interview was with Ray Lewis. Sugar Ray Leonard. Sorry. Back in 2011, Kendall Reed, she helped me to get that interview back in 2011. And shout out to my editor, Anselm, who was just an amazing editor, and he was my first editor, so he really kind of taught me the ropes of, being a journalist. But even Adina Andrews, who, she is actually younger than me. I was gonna say she's a peer, but like as far as a peer in the sports space and things like that, but she's always looked out, gotten me roles, gigs, jobs, and things like that. She is Ace Boone in my book, but but if I was getting in sports, she would be on my personal board of directors for that, and love her. But yeah, so all that to say, build a personal board of directors, because there are different people that are going to just have different insights, different information on different aspects of your industry. And so you want to know somebody who knows, potentially about sales. You want to know somebody who potentially knows about marketing, somebody that potentially knows about communications, right? These are just, top 3 things. Publicity, PR, right? I have a friend, Gabby, who is my publicist, right? Because she is my sister and my publicist. She always tells me how to tell my story, right? How to, strategically move, as a public figure in any time I do something that's public facing, right? So her. So you want to have somebody that's good at PR or communications, right? Think about all of the people that you need. And in your industry, it might be different, but usually those are, some of the major areas that you might want to work in, right? Sponsorships. Maybe it's somebody who has more experience in sponsorships and you're like, you know what? I need to know somebody in sponsorships. So look them up on LinkedIn. Look at your favorite companies, right? I always like to, when I'm giving career advice and, somebody's like, oh, I want to go into this industry, I always ask them, what's the top 5 companies that you want to work at? Make your dream list, right? Of the top 5 companies that you want to work at. Start to call those people up. Start to look on their LinkedIn and, see, okay, who works there? As a person in TV and film, you'll want to look at your favorite shows. Look at shows that you would like to work on one day. And I even got this advice this past weekend from being at the Black Women Film Network Summit from Felicia Pride herself. I was wondering, how do you get on the set of A Different World? She's like, call the line producer, call the production manager. Like, look them up. It's public knowledge, and see what they can do, right? Because you never know. You have to shoot your shot, right? And this year, I know a lot of people are going for 1,000 rejections, so that's something that you have to do. So go for it. I would say, build your board of directors, continue to cultivate the relationships with your mentors, right? Not just always asking them for something, asking what you can do for them, how you can serve them, how you can serve. Like I said, I went to the Black Women Film Network event this past weekend. Excuse me. And all I wanted to do really was serve, right? Of course, I was there, I was able to network, met some contacts, met some peers, right? Met a woman that's a writer at, I feel a sneeze. Excuse me. I met a woman that's a writer at Tyler Perry Studios. And so, of course, I followed up with her. I will follow up again if I don't hear from her in a week, right? So make sure that, you are going out there, meeting people, but make sure that you're relationships aren't just transactional, right? You want to be able to serve, to give, not only because you're trying to get a leg up, but you want to be able to give because you want to make an impact in society, right? Muhammad Ali talks about how service is the rent that we pay for living on earth, right? So you want to be able to do that in your industry, to do that as a give back. It'll make you feel better, and it'll also help you to build your skills. God doesn't just tell you that for no reason. That's not just something that people do for no reason. You also build your communication skills when you're going to, I'm going to a school on Friday, when you go to a school and speak to the students. Build your leadership skills when, you might be serving at Urban League, right? Urban League Young Professionals. And, you're the leader of the, finance committee, or, you're signing up people to vote. All of these things are building skills, and you're giving back to the community. So why not? So those are my tips. I hope that, you really got something out of this, even if it's just a new thought of building your board of directors for a high stakes career, or for your personal self. If you're like, I want to, make sure that I raise a family, spend more time around families, get you, a board of directors for, your family, for your family life, or for your marriage, what you want to do there. So, or for future marriage, right? For your spiritual growth, right? So I would say just make sure that you are genuine in your asks, in your outreach, and make sure that you're being genuine to yourself. Be authentic. Don't just go after something for the money. I remember my mentor, again, Keith White, told me, don't just do something to get rich. Do something you're good in and get rich at it. And so that's what I leave you with today. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Brown Girls Glow Live. Until next time, keep growing and keep glowing, and of course, keep elevating. Peace.